Hi, this is Through Skeins, Knit and Crochet Podcast, and I am Lisa. Oh, episode 116.
And I'm Chris, and yeah.
We've had a small technical difficulty, but it's okay. We have overcome, as they say. Would you like to go first today, Kristen? Because you have exciting things on at the moment.
I finished my shirt, and I did a little picot edging at the bottom. She finished, y'all.
So tell us all about it.
It was fine. I had like precious few issues with this top. Once I realized I didn't have enough yarn to make a t-shirt. Once I said, okay, she's gonna be a tank top, problem solved.
Problem solved. Okay.
So this is, the yarn is Habu Tweedy Silk. Lace weight. This was like my first time working with a lace weight, and I had no issues with it. It's a beautiful yarn. It frogs nicely, and that is always such a plus in a yarn, the ability to rip out when you need to rip out, because that's just part of the process. So any yarn that thwarts you in those efforts, gets a little side eye. But she frogs beautifully, and I know it's a very simple make. So now I had said I was going to, like fold the top down and run a thing through it, which would still have been cute. See, look at that. But I started looking for like some sort of cord or something to run through it. Yeah, we still got threads. Y'all know how I do. And I couldn't find what I wanted. And I'll tell you the truth, I was finding a lot of like polyester, and I was like, I know it's just the cord, but I don't want to put polyester cord on the silk top. So I realized I had enough yarn left, and because I ended up coming up so high with the tank top, I don't know if you can see, I have another tank top on underneath, and here's the edging of that tank top. So as you can see, this neckline is much, much higher. I came up so high, I was like, you know what? My shoulder strap just wouldn't have to be that long. So I whipped out a couple of short shoulder straps, and I made them shorter than I thought I needed, because shoulder straps stretch, and I didn't want it to just keep sinking lower and lower over time. So I actually made them what I thought was too short, but it fits just fine. And then I even ended up having enough yarn to do the little picot detail on the edge. So I did one row of like fillets, so I alternated double crochet and chain one. And then around that, I did another row of just picot trim. And it just gives a cute little detail at the bottom edge. And this thing it's weightless. Have you ever heard someone describe a garment as feeling like they weren't wearing anything? That is this top. It's really like a barely there kind of thing. It's incredibly comfortable. I feel like it's going to be very comfortable to wear in summer heat. I would buy this yarn again tomorrow. I'm trying not to. I really want more of it. But I love it, and the shirt just went well. Even doing what I'm calling intermittent stitching, where I had to like stop crocheting after 30 minutes, which is a really good idea. Because I would work for 30 minutes and I feel a little pain in my neck or something, and just keep going. Because like I would crochet like through like say a whole movie, and by the time that was done, I was already in pain, but then I'd watch another movie. That's a terrible plan. So even though I was taking a lot of breaks, I was still able to finish it, in what I thought was a reasonable time. So my new crochet, my intermittent stitching is not going to be an issue the way I thought it was. I assumed it would just slow me down to like a snail's pace, and it'd be really hard to make anything. And that's not the case. So if you have an arm pain, you can take breaks and you will still finish your project. So just go ahead, set your timer. That's what I've been doing. I have even started stopping crocheting in the middle of a row which I hate to do for no reason at all. It shouldn't matter where at all which stitch you stop on.
Yes.
But I want to really obey my timer. So when it goes off, I just stop on that stitch. Because you think, oh, I'll just finish the row. But you could be close to the end of the row, or you could be close to the beginning of the row. And if you're still going, you're not taking the break like you need to. So I'm obeying my timer, and I'm stopping on whatever stitch I'm at when the timer goes off, which has been a big shift.
I know it has.
Just seeing the unfinished row drives me nuts. So I have to like put it away. But yeah, so this is like the first project I finished with my new stitching schedule, and it's gonna be fine, y'all.
And you know, I think what really clinched it for you was that this was a lace weight project. Yes. So if you can,
even at lace weight, you can take breaks. Please do so.
Because I'm scared to even think how many stitches per inch that is.
It wasn't like terrible, but you know, she fine.
Mm.
She fine. I'm not mad at that. I like that. I like fine gauge crocheting. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened. But it was literally like the first time I used finger and weight yarn, I was like, where has this been all my stitching life? So yeah, I definitely see me doing more lace weight projects.
Now you were telling me that you decided not to mattress stitch the seams.
Yes. So let's talk about these side seams. They're not terribly long. And the way I usually do my seams is I will single crochet down either side of the pieces that I'm going to stitch together, and then use the heads of the stitches to do my mattress stitch, because trying to mattress stitch in the sides of stitches, I find it difficult. Maybe other people have an easier time with it, but it was very challenging for me. So I did my single crochet down the sides, but I was really dreading having to mattress stitch navy blue lace weight fabric. Navy blue and lace weight. So the stitches are very small and they're very dark. And I was just like, I will not be sane when I'm done.
No way.
And so I was like, you know what? Because I usually do mattress stitch because it gives you a smoother or less bulky seam. Otherwise, I normally do slip stitch. But I went ahead and did slip stitch because I was like, at this gauge, bulky ain't that bulky. So when I was done, like, I'm gonna press the seam or like at least steam it, but it's really not even an issue. It really wouldn't have been worth the effort to mattress stitch. I just used the heads of the stitches to slip stitch, and it's fine.
Bulk is a relative term.
It really and truly is. So that's how I did my seams, and it was very simple. The only thing, if I'm gonna be honest, when I was doing the finishing work, so when I did the stitching down the sides, and when I seamed it, and I did my my picot edging, that's when I didn't set my timer. And by the time I was done, I was like, I should have set my timer. So when I did what I considered to be finishing work, I didn't set the timer, and I now know, yeah, just go ahead, just do that. You're still using your arm, honey. Just go ahead, set that timer. So I learned that, but other than that, this was a largely uneventful stitching event, and that's how I like them. But I will, put together some outfits, and they were all really cute. So I will do like some pictures or a video or something, because it's such like it's a navy blue tank top. Who can't use one of those? So it slid right into the wardrobe. That's wonderful.
I know, she was like discovering different combinations that she could put together with it. It was a cool little fashion show.
So she's done.
And you actually had a tiny bit of yarn left over, and you were worried, like the whole time that you would have it?
6 grams. Now, each of these cones, I had 2 cones and they were 48 grams each. So that's 96 grams. And I used the 90 and I have the 6 left. I was really worried, like, what if I don't have enough to, like, do my seaming and stuff? But no, worked out just fine. Once I changed the design, my yarn chicken concerns were really, resolved.
You go, girl. I love this piece. I think it is beautiful. Is that it for you and the take?
Yes.
All right.
What do you have?
I also have a finished object this week. It's actually a sweater now. We lean back. Can we see it?
Yes, you can see the whole sweater.
Okay, cool. The duck is done. I'm really happy with how this came out. I think I like pieced sweaters.
You didn't know that?
No, because I usually work in the round. But it's got such a nice structure to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of the seams. Everything is sitting where it needs to sit. And I am extremely happy with that. Let me just move this over. Okay. Let me show you. I showed you guys the inside last time, right? And several people were quite traumatized by the number of ends.
I was traumatized.
I was traumatized. When I first like acknowledged how many ends there really were, I was like, oh, I had to like not think of, you know how okay, I'll deal with that when it comes. So what I ended up doing, this is the inside, was I wove in the ends, right? Just your basic, simple weaving, just following the path of the yarn through the garter stitch, through the reverse stockinette on the back. And then to really finish neatening it up, because I'm going to hold this up close, I took my felting, I had a felting needle, and I clipped the ends, and then I put all the pieces in the washing machine, and then I sent it through the dryer, because my yarn is a washable wool and acrylic blend, and that's how I blocked it. Now, once that happened, my ends were a bit frayed, which was perfect. Because then I was able to take my felting needle and felt in each and every one of those ends. And that's how I ended up.
Part acrylic, it felt it?
Yeah, it felt it. It felt it surprisingly well. I mean, it wasn't as quick as it would have felt it if it was all wool. Mm-hmm. But if it was all wool, I wouldn't be able to send it through the washing machine and dryer. So, you gotta pick your battles. But that's how I got this fairly smooth finish on the back, because I was really worried that I was going to have a lumpy, bumpy situation back here with approximately 1 million ends, just waving on the back. But I'm really happy with how this came out. And then running it through the washing machine and the dryer just kind of firmed everything up. My rowing out issue is largely resolved. I had that going on at the very beginning, and I ended up switching my knitting style to a combination knitting style instead of a basic Western knitting style. So what that means...
And using granny sticks.
Yes, and using straight needles. They are not granny sticks.
Tomato.
So now, as you can see, I don't have heavy lines, horizontal lines running through the sweater. So when you knit combination style, that just means when you're purling, instead of putting the yarn over, you put the yarn under the needle. And that gives you essentially a reverse mounted stitch when you come back on the front. So your knits will all be reversed. So
now, was it hard for you to change your knitting style? Because I don't think I could just flip my crochet style on
You know what? In the beginning, if I didn't pay attention, I would just go back to my normal style. but I would just rip that row out if I noticed it quickly enough. Otherwise, there's a row or two that's Western. But it wasn't, but I was really focused on it, so it didn't happen a lot. But yeah, if I relaxed, my hands took over, and that's all they needed was, room to roam. But I don't have the horizontal lines, and that was really killing me. So that was pretty awesome. I did set in sleeves. So the last 2 days, all of my crafting time has been devoted to seaming this sweater up. So first I seamed the shoulders. Well, I seamed both shoulders, and then I picked up stitches for the neckline. When you're picking up your stitches, you really want to look at the fabric as you're going, because nobody can tell you exactly how many stitches you need to pick up. And that used to confound me in patterns, because sometimes I could not get a smooth finish and pick up that number of stitches, and I would get really focused. Okay, it's got to be 84 stitches. Why? Why does it have to be 84 stitches? So particularly for the underarm seam, if you have to pick up stitches there, your bands, pick up the number of stitches you need to pick up at your gauge to get a nice smooth finish. So what I ended up doing was stitches that I had bound off, I picked up 1 for 1. So like the middle of the back section, those were bound off stitches. I picked these up 1 for 1. Stitches that I did decreases on that weren't bound off, I picked up something like 3 out of every 4. And that's how I got that smooth finish. And these stitches here were bound off, so I picked them up 1 for 1.
This very issue is why I'm planning to do many more square necklines, because it drives me nuts trying to do necklines.
But that will resolve that. So ignore that number, because let's say you need a specific number to make something else work later on. If you have to pick up more stitches, just disappear them in a row and get back to the number you need to continue on in your pattern. And I had the same situation with the set-in sleeve. So the first one, right, I got all excited and I seamed my sides first, I think what got me was I was thinking like a person who sews. And when you're sewing, you sew up the side seams and then you set in your sleeve in that round space. So that's what I did. That's not what you should do when you're sewing a knitted garment together. Don't do that. What you want to do is put your sleeve in and then
work one long seam.
Yeah, well, actually, no, you don't even want to do that. So what really worked well and didn't have me have it be short at the end or long at the end was I sewed from the underarm to the center on this edge, from the underarm to the center on the other edge. And that way they just sort of balanced each other out. And I pinned everything together first. So when the sleeve was in, now I sewed from the armpit to the bottom, and then from the armpit to the bottom of the hem. Because on the other side, I didn't do that, and my armpit didn't match up exactly. So to make your armpit match up exactly, start sewing from the armpit and put your seams together at the bottom so that you can balance everything out. Because I sewed the other one as one long seam, and it's not as exact. I'll show you guys.
You have 2 different seams going?
A little bit. It wasn't like super off, but I got one perfect and the other one's not so perfect. But it's okay. It'll still be wearable. It'll still be fine. But other than those little details, oh, and I had to be careful with the sleeves because I have thumb holes in them, so I had a left sleeve and a right sleeve. I couldn't just grab a sleeve and sew it in.
Otherwise, you'd have pinky holes.
Exactly, I'd have pinky holes if I got it wrong.
Which could be a new thing.
I don't know if we want that thing, but it could be a new thing indeed. But otherwise, and ukulele people.
Where have we heard this before?
People. Now, this yarn did not feel bad in any way when I was first working with it, okay? When I put it in the washing machine, I put a teaspoon of ukulele in because we have a front loader. So I put a teaspoon of ukulele in there, and I had a couple of other wool sweaters. So I was like, you know what? I haven't washed these since Jesus was a boy. Let me toss them in too. I put it on the rinse and spin cycle. I just followed the directions on the ukulele bottle. It said either put it on rinse and spin or the delicate cycle. And I just opted to go with the shortest cycle, which was the rinse and spin, which was 16 minutes. Took it out, I tossed it in the dryer, also on a delicate cycle. I actually ended up running it through the dryer twice because it just wasn't dry. It was 23 minutes on low. Yeah.
Low is very low.
Low is very low on our dryer. So I ended up running it through 2 times. It was just fine. But feel this yarn. Feel this fabric.
I know you were talking to this audience. It was like, they can't feel
it. I'm telling you. But it just has this beautiful velvety hand now.
Mm-hmm.
It feels
so nice.
It doesn't feel like acrylic at all. And it just feels buttery and
but it
velvety.
has that smoothness that acrylic imparts.
Yeah. But it has that, I don't know, it has a...
But it's got the body you get from wool.
Yeah. So this is Barocco Vintage, and I'm like, thumbs up on Barocco Vintage. But I use a mix of yarns in this sweater. So I had some teeny weeny wool, which was fingering weight, so I doubled it where I used it. So like this green and this blue here are teeny weeny wool. This yellow, I believe, is Barocco Ultra Wool. The white is also Barocco Ultra Wool. So I just use yarns that would be compatible. So I use all washable yarns that I could also run through the dryer. So that's your basic thing. Just use yarns that are compatible for the cleaning. And if you use a yarn that's not washable and dryable in a project like this, then the whole project is not washable and dryable. That's my baby. I love it. I love how the colors came out. And it was actually, the most tedious part was the seaming. It took many hours.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It took many hours.
It's usually the most tedious part. More so than making your duck?
Yeah, the ducking wasn't really bad at all.
The ducking?
The ducking. That part wasn't bad. You know, that was I had to pay attention and count. But you know what? I
had your giant chart.
Changed my life. I am never working from a tiny chart again. I did not realize how much easier it would be if my stitches were this high. It was county and you had to pay attention, but it was one row at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was one row at a time. And by the time I got over the feet of the duck, I wasn't doing anything else in the sweater. So it was just straight knitting. Cool. But that's the duck sweater.
Just in time for everything.
I know. I'm going to try to pop it in the mail ASAP.
Anything else you want to share?
Well, I will be teaching at Vogue next week. Yeah.
Well, this will go up Monday, so it'll be this week.
Yeah, this week. It will be virtual Vogue, March 15th through 17th. I'm teaching how to work a pattern and
Sweater savvy.
Sweater savvy.
Make your first sweater that fits.
And that's all I had to announce for this week. You got anything else?
I'm just trying to choose my next project. You know what it is? It's like, it's not that I don't know what to do. I have so many things I want to do and I'm having trouble just settling. So I was all set to make a skirt, and I think I previously showed some yarns that I was thinking about using for the skirt. I showed a crochet thread, a green crochet thread I was making a square out of, and I have basically like 2 ideas for a skirt that are both actually from this book I'm about to show you. But then I was flipping through the book, and so here's the thing. I bought this book called Knit, Fold, Pleat, Repeat it's called Simple Knits, Gorgeous Garments by Nora Dawn. And it's all knitting patterns, right? But the whole premise of the book is that you just make simple shapes and then you do like interesting construction, or you do like shaping details that kind of elevate the garment a little bit. And I was interested in that because I like to just work with very simple shapes. I don't like my crochet to be at all complicated. And when I got the book, it was actually just even more than I had hoped for, and it just offers a plethora of ideas. And now I have like idea overload. So I don't know if you can see all those little tabs I have. Each one of those tabs is a thing I might want to make some sort of crochet version of. And what's really turning my head is this sweater. It's called the Rib Jacket. I have to say, I don't always think the photos in this book are the best, because, you know, sometimes people go more for the art shop. But this is just a very basic, simple sweater. So there's it on and also laying flat. And I love the little like lapel detail. But again, crazy simple shapes. It's constructed almost entirely of rectangles, and I have some yarn that's a little busy, so if I just do like simple stitches but just let the yarn you know, do its thing, I feel like the jacket would just kind of look really cute. So the yarn I was thinking of is Liana from Barocco. This is a discontinued yarn, but sometimes I'm trying to like will this thing to focus, and that does not work. Okay, there you go. So you can see it's got a lot of different colors going on, and it's also one of those yarns where there's like kind of a thread wrapped around the.
Oh, you had it. Oh, you had it for a second.
There you go.
There you go.
So you can see that, you know, there's a darker thread twisted around it, and it's 81% linen and 19% nylon. And I feel like for a jacket that's just a very basic shape and a simple construction, using a yarn that's got its own thing going on would be cute. And as you can see, this blue kind of goes nicely with this top. So I was thinking kind of like almost like a little twin set type of situation. But then I have this linen. This is 100% linen. And if you remember, I made a white dress out of this stuff last year. Love that thing. And this is going to give you drape. This, the Liana is a DK weight. This is
It's like a lace weight to me.
They call it a fingering weight. Let's call it a light fingering. And this would give me gorgeous drape.
Yes.
And either way, I want to do a cardigan that's not wool, because I want to have something for like spring and just, you know, when you just need a little something over your shoulders and your arms because maybe there's a breeze. Or you know those days where when you're standing directly in sunlight, it's warm, but as soon as you step in the shade, it's a little burr. So I wanted something that was an intermediate weight. But this got me thinking, because I have more of this than I have of this, got me thinking about maybe doing like kind of a summer suit where I do a jacket and maybe a matching skirt. And here I'm just like spiraling into this well of ideas. And it's not like it's a bad thing, but at some point you need to just focus and, you know, get started on something. But I just finished this top 2 days ago, so I'm going to just give myself a bit of a break.
Yeah.
And if I'll allot myself a week for just thinking and figuring out what I want to do. But I kind of like the suit idea because it combines the skirt I was already thinking about making with the jacket that I maybe want to make. But I just wanted to give you an idea of like the chaos that swirls in my brain as I'm trying to plan my next project, because I just want to paint a real picture of what it's like. Mm-hmm. You know, designing a wardrobe, which is what I'm doing now. I don't even think of it as like designing individual garments anymore. I'm designing, you know, my look.
Alrighty now.
And this is what's involved eventually, just making decisions eventually. So that's all I had going on.
Me, I am also at the place, I literally just finished sewing this project together today, as you know, just before we started filming. So I have already been thinking about my next piece, and I've been doing some practice mosaic because I know that's the only thing I know for sure, that I'm going to be doing mosaic knitting in my project. And I'm actually spending some time picking out the patterns that I want to swatch, so that I can see how they're going to play together. Because what I'd like to do is have each piece have a slightly different pattern. And I haven't chosen any patterns yet. As you can see by the tabs on my book, I've been going through and just considering my options.
I'm sorry, does your tab have a little face on it?
It's a sheep. Like, everybody doesn't have sleek, fancy tabs like yours.
Not everyone has like knitting specific tabs. Where'd you even get those?
At Daiso.
Okay, continue.
Another thing I noticed about this book, it's Mosaic Knitting by Barbara Walker, is that she has the patterns grouped by stitch count. So if I wanted to run a couple of patterns together, I could just choose them from the same section and they would have the same stitch count.
No one does that for crochet.
I think that's, I've never seen it done that way before. Okay, this is my first time encountering it. This is somebody who's written many books of stitch patterns and thought about it.
That would be wonderful, because I just saw a skirt that had like different, it was, you know, machine knit, but it had different patterns running down the skirt. And I was like, oh, that would be cute to do a crochet version of that with different stitch patterns, but I'm going to have to match up those stitch counts myself. I'm not looking forward to that. No.
I have to look at some of my other stitch dictionaries, but this is literally the first time that I've seen it. And this is not a new book. This is an older book. But everybody who writes stitch pattern books, please, this is a brilliant idea. And she even matched them, because you know some stitch patterns, they have a plus. It's the same.
Yeah.
So and this page just opened up randomly too. It's a multiple of 16 stitches plus 3. All the patterns in this section are a multiple of 16 stitches plus 3.
Must be nice as all.
It's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the course of this week. I will be swatching different stitch patterns together. I'm going to be using this Plymouth Encore as my preliminary swatching yarn, so I don't use up too much of the yarn.
Are you planning to make your jacket on the granny sticks? Is that why you're swatching on them?
Well, these swatches I won't be measuring. These are just to actually
learn the patterns.
Learn the patterns and to have pieces to kind of match together to see how they'll play together. But yeah, I have some longer straight needles that I will probably be knitting.
Because I feel like this is like a seismic shift. Like you're really switching how you knit.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Going old school.
I tell you, there's something, it works for me. I'm like this swatch, I'm still knitting combination style, but I don't even think I'm gonna need to knit combination style to knit mosaic. So I'm gonna try another section where I just knit Western style and see how that affects the fabric, because I like the overall fabric I got for that sweater. It's a much more cohesive fabric than I normally knit because my other style of knitting is so loose. So I'm going to see, now this tends to tighten up because you see, I do have a couple of little floats depending on how many stitches you need to slip. You might have a float or two, but it's nowhere near as tight as Fair Isle knitting would be. But I feel like it does pull in a little bit. So there are things I want to play with so that I can get the right drape for the pieces I want to make. But that's where I'm going. But that's the other tip I want to share too. You don't have to do all of your swatching, especially if you don't really know exactly what you want to do. I just have some very inexpensive Plymouth Encore. I have lots of it, and it's perfectly fine for trying out a new technique. And I'm not using up the yarn I'm going to actually need for my project. But that's what's going on with me. I'm kind of sort of thinking about my my suit. I keep going back and forth about which piece I want to start with. I don't know if I want to start with the skirt or the vest because I haven't settled in my mind what the jacket looks like yet. So vest and skirt, I kind of have an idea, but we'll see. I need to make some sketches this week, so I kind of finalize what it's going to be like in my brain.
Right. Cute. Yeah. I think that's all we have.
Yeah. Oh, like and subscribe.
It makes your mom happy. So, thanks for watching. Stay stitching.